Hello everyone, welcome to the Weeb Initiative. I'm your host, the Weeb. This is the show where every other week I'll be talking about anime, manga, and everything in between. This week we'll be talking about SSSS Gridman. Following my Triggers mini-series, let's say, I'll be talking about the one anime that came out after Darling the Franxx, that being Gridman. I would just say it just to make short. Gridman is one oddball anime, already going a bit over the stats. It's an adaptation of a tokusatsu from 1993. For those who don't know, tokusatsu is this kind of show where you see this, most commonly guys in superhero suits fighting mostly kaiju, monsters and all. The one thing in the West we can always come back to as a Western tokusatsu is Power Rangers, because this is a thing you can search out. Power Rangers was based on Super Sentai, which is a old ass series from way back when. I don't really know the years, but basically guys in suits fighting monsters. That's the basic premise. The original tokusatsu was called Denko Shoujin Gridman. And already going into the disclaimers, first off, spoiler alert, I will not spoil everything from the show because at the end it becomes so experimental and so meta that I think the experience will be lesser if I tell you about it. So I would urge you to watch it rather than me telling you about it. So, and back to what I was saying, tokusatsu is not something I really vibe with. I know a lot of people who like it. I just don't vibe with it. I don't see the thrill. I can see why someone would like it. I just don't. It's not my jam. That's the basics of it. So what's Gridman about, right? And what's the stats, right? First off, the anime came out in October 2018 and went through December 2018. It has 12 episodes. It has original soundtrack by Aniplex. I don't have the name of the composers and musicians, but it's a pretty good one. The opening is so hype. I cannot stress it enough. And as I said at the beginning, it's made by Trigger. It's produced by Trigger, right? And it's an adaptation from at the time 24-year show from a live action show. So you can imagine that they had to adapt a whole lot of things because most tokusatsu really have a whole lot of episodes, a lot more than only the 12 Gridman has. So you eventually notice that some parts are rushed or they just straight up don't explain anything about what's happening because they need the time to flex on the animation for the most part. So going about the story, right? What's the story about? So first things off, first episode you meet Yuta, who's the main character. He has amnesia as the first episode, and you meet he is sleeping in a girl's house, Rika, who's the main girl of the whole show. The main girl, I would say the main ally girl, because then you meet the other two main characters, the Utsumi, and then you meet the antagonist that later comes on. I will get to that, but Akane. So what's Gridman about, right? You meet the characters and what about it? So apparently, for some odd reason, the city is attacked by kaiju, and for some reason there's this old PC at Rika's parents' shop that has this mecha-looking guy named Gridman. And for one reason or another, Yuta kind of combines with him, enters the PC, and then spawns in the real world as a giant Gridman to fight the kaiju that come attacking the city. And basically that's the first episode. It's Yuta learning, although he has amnesia, that he has to fight the kaiju with Gridman for some reason. For the first episode, we will already say the aesthetics are really, really good. The anime, from what I can gather on my humble opinion, let's say, they did not have much input on the plot, and they could not mix things up or do anything out of the source material from what I can see or from conjecture. The thing is, what they really do, and I don't know if the source material is like that because unfortunately I did not watch and I did not find either the original run in Japanese or a subbed or dubbed version. So if you can find it and watch it, good for you. I don't know. I will just talk about what I can see in the anime. So about the whole thing, right? So the kaiju appear and Yuta fights it, and then you can see already from just these first 22 minutes of animation. First off, they really try to show off these let's say cinematic shots, this more, let's say, experimental kind of things. So you see sometimes they focus on something really just at the side of the frame, not really them focusing only on the characters, really focusing on the environment, the situation, the something even out of the whole scenery. They really try to flex the aesthetics and the style, and you can feel it. The animation is pretty good. It's pretty trigger, let's say, and that's the thing with trigger anime, right? They try to really flex their personality as a studio in all their work, and you can see the personalities, their personality showing off. For a Gridman, I think that's really the big part. For the plot, it's really just straightforward, just shonen action. Big guy beats kaiju and eventually gets a Megazord, that kind of thing. I'll get to that, but that's just it. It's a really beautiful anime, really well animated. The fighting scenes are really, really good. In the first fight scene, you can already feel the tokusatsu way, that the poses, the calling out the moves and all. It's really resembles, if you ever watched, most people will, Power Rangers. It's really similar to that, and I think it's fun. It's something different from what you mostly see out of anime nowadays. And so you get out this first episode with the four main characters and Gridman, because Gridman in itself, he does not really alter the story much. Eventually he alters, but it's way to the end. So anyways, second episode, then we get to see that after the kaiju has attacked the city and a lot of damage has been done, a lot of people died, that people around them don't remember anything, and most of the buildings are reconstructed. So they have this realization that only then, maybe because of Gridman, have this knowledge, this memory of what happened, and other people around them don't actually remember. And so that's the whole mystery they face. But as we watch it, we can see what actually happens. And actually, Akane is the one making the kaijus with the help of, let's say, an alien that we just know as Alexis for the first part of the anime. So basically, she does this kind of resin wire models, and then he kind of just sprinkle pixie dust and animates them. how they decide their powers is beyond me, but that's not really important at all. So that's the second episode. Comes out with another kaiju, and they eventually get him and all. Third episode, we get introduced to the, let's say the one who somewhat helps Gridman most of the time. That is, Azakane was creating a new kaiju. She creates a way different kaiju that has, let's say, human consciousness, more or less. He's called Anti, and he has this kind of human form, although he's a kaiju. And when he sees Gridman, he can kind of morph into his kaiju form. Mostly seems like a mecha, I would say, but anyways, it's a kaiju, whatever. And then he finally kind of defeats Yuta and Gridman, but then and also in this episode you get to see the first, let's say, outside of the main cast ally of Gridman. That is the first, as they call, the first person from, and get this, Neon Genesis High School. That is Samurai Calibur. It is never explained why, but for some reason he has this power to materialize himself, much like Yuta combines with Gridman to spawn as giant Gridman. Calibur has this thing where he can enter the computer and spawn himself as a sword for Gridman to use. And so you get this first thing where you see then that Anti is he kinda defeats Gridman for the first part, but then at the end of the episode they kinda come back and defeat him. So that's episode 3. Episode 4 is more like introduction to the, let's say, the side characters arc. So in this case we can start to see the character arc for Erika. That Erika is the one who is really affected by the fact that as they go there and defeat most kaijus, they notice that actually not everything is restored, and the people that die at the hand of the kaijus, actually they kind of altered the past. So for instance, right, this one girl who's the first one to be attacked in the first episode, that is Tonka. I don't think I pronounced that correctly, but anyways, she was one of their schoolmates. She was in the same class as Rika, Yuta, and Utsumi, but when she's attacked and they remember her from like yesterday, they go to her house, and when they ask her father, he says she died in middle school. So they see that it kills the person, so just alters the past. It's explaining it is way worse than just seeing it. It's way simpler than what I'm trying to explain. But anyways, the thing is, right, Rika is way affected by people's death because she gets this thing where it doesn't matter when they die. If they die, they change like this perception you have of life, and that is, well, people die. That's the thing, right? When people die, that does affect everyone around them. And then she gets this thing where she really gets down when she notices that nobody remembers anyone that dies, and so there's no mark of them for the most part. And then in this episode, after this whole sidetrack, in this episode, Akane and Erika get hooked into this, let's say, this mixer with a lot of for college boys, because some of Rika's friends found them and they go to this mixer in the karaoke. And at this point you can already see from the last episodes, but in episode 4 you can already see that Akane is pretty futile with how she handles using kaiju to kill people. And this is the thing, right? Akane, she creates, and again, this is never explained, just go with it. Akane designs these kaijus, make these kaijus alive, but she kind of designs them already with targets in their head, more or less. So any person she kills, it is kind of premeditated, it's targeted. And you can see in this episode that she, first off, she has real problems with socializing with people she does not know. I would say it like that. It can be also said that she absolutely hate extrovert people. You can say that also, but the thing is, she designs this new kaiju just to attack the guys they go with them in the mixer with. And the thing is, the next day after the 3 of the guys actually die, not even the one that survives remember the other 3, and that's really messed up. So the thing is, eventually Gridman comes out and defeats the kaiju and all, but he can never actually recover the people that were killed, right? And also in this episode you can see the first limitation from the allies of Gridman, because after they meet, I'm getting so sidetracked with all these things and I don't know if I make sense anymore, but Excalibur is the, let's say, the sword for Gridman. There are other 3 people from Neon Genesis High, let's say, and they call it Neon Genesis High. It's a whole lot of references. They reference Ultraman for a whole lot of episodes also. But the thing is, right, also from Caliber we have Max, Vito, and Bor. And when they try to combine all 4 with Gridman, the PC gets kinda stuck. It's more or less like the processor cannot deal with it. If you ever try to render a video and do much of anything, like, I don't know, try playing Cyberpunk and render a video at the same time, I dare you. That's the thing, the processor kind of breaks up and then they get ejected out of the computer. And so we see the first, let's say, combination of really, that is Max and Gridman, that is kind of just grow your biceps and flex a lot, more or less like that. So episode 5, this is a fairly well done swimsuit episode, right? So it's not the beach, it is not the onsen, it's not the pool. They actually go rafting outside of the city. And Akane designs a kaiju to kind of take Gridman for surprise, because at this point Akane does not know that Yuta is Gridman, and Yuta has no vague idea that Akane is the one designing the kaijus. But then she designs this kaiju that is actually let's say a turtle mountain, crocodile mountain, I would say. And then they have this whole thing where the guys from Neon Genesis High that are kind of freeloading at Rika's shop have to buy the computer, get to the train with a whole lot of pieces and a whole lot of CRT monitor case and all, and go to the mountains to find them and get Yuta to transform into Gridman. And we see another transformation from Gridman, that is Gridman and Bor. And Bor is somewhat of a reminds me a lot, if you ever saw, it's a really old movie, of Thunderbirds. Thunderbirds was a movie where the guys used this super technological vehicles and all to mostly rescue and protecting nature. Bor seems really inspired by that in the same vein. I would say it's kind of, he transforms into let's say a super drill fire truck kind of thing. It's really nice, and it's the one that really takes me back to the Power Rangers days, the Megazords, the oh boy, I wish I had a toy to play with. That a playset with all the toys to transform and bring out the Megazord. That's the good stuff. So that's episode 5. Now episode 6 begins to get really experimental with this animation. At this point, Akane kinda gets the idea that Yuta is Gridman, and she tells Auntie to straight up just kill Yuta. And after a chasing scene, right, this whole thing where Auntie almost kills Yuta and Max and Calibur save him, Yuta finds this girl that claims to be a kaiju, and for all intents and purposes she is. And then she starts to explain the whole world building of the whole thing, right? She explains to him that actually the city they live in is Akane's creation. She explains to him that all the reconstruction of the city every time a kaiju attacks is made by other kaijus in the horizon. Outside of the city that they live in, I would say there's a few neighborhoods they live in, there's nothing. There is this gas cloud to make people sleep. And actually the part they went when they had the field trip to go rafting, the Akane just kind of made that on demand just to fill up the space, but actually that does not exist. And then to explain that, the animation gets really, I would not say clunky, but they just get this really, what we would call maybe old or outdated 3D animation, much like kind of VeggieTales, and try to explain with some sprites and things. It's pretty nice. I would say it's really experimental. It's one of those parts that you'll go like, why did they do that like that? Like, why would you did not need to go out of your way to animating a whole nother program just to tell this story? But anyways, they just did it because yes. And then that's basically episode 6. Eventually Calibur and Max convince Auntie that actually Yuta is not Gridman, and just go like that for this day. See you tomorrow, let's say. So episode 7, Yuta begins trying to tell this whole revelation thing to Utsumi and Rika, but they clearly do not believe him. Who would, right? And the whole crux of the episode, actually, right? At some point when Yuta returns from school to home, he finds Akane waiting for him at his home, and then they begin this really uncomfortable dialogue where she confirms everything he learned from the kaiju girl, that actually she's the god of the city, she has the power to do anything she wants, and then she tries to convince him to join her. But then at the end of the day, right, Yuta meets Alexis for the first time. We see Alexis' whole body, let's say, for the first time. And when Akane says, they try to make it, let's say, diplomatic. So there's no fight today. There will be no fight today. Yuta gets this alert from his, let's say, this special watch he has, that actually there is a kaiju out there, and when he sees it, actually there is, and Akane is surprised at Alexis, because for what she believes, she's the only one capable of designing kaiju. But then he reveals that actually he took one kaiju idea from Auntie that creates a new powerful kaiju, because according to Alexis, the power of the kaiju is measured by the hatred in the creator's heart. So Auntie, who's the kaiju created just to kill Gridman, he holds a whole lot of hate for him. And we get to see the last, let's say, combination from Gridman, that is he and Vito. It is, I would say, most similar to Gurren Lagann flying. That's a stretch. Scratch that. The thing is, he gets a jetpack, basically. And then we see also that as Auntie was created to kill Gridman, as Gridman transforms, he copycats, kind of bootlegs his way to getting the same abilities. So for instance, when he transforms with Max, Auntie gets something kind of like Max's power, so he kind of gets more buff. When Gridman transforms with Boar, he kind of gains this ability to launch missiles, and now with Vito, he gets his own, let's say, version of flying. And this is the one thing I will just say, because at this point, Auntie's way of flying is really, really similar to Kill la Kill transformation of flying. So Senketsu Senpu, it's really, really similar. The way they create this kind of, let's say, skirt for the jets in the legs, really similar. Just wanted to single out that single detail because I felt like it. I think it's really nice actually so they can keep kind of a legacy, let's say. I like it. Anyways, episode 8, we get this one episode that there's this whole thing where they try to get a, let's say, school festival going, but then Akane announces to Yuta, Rika, and Utsumi that she will get a kaiju just to kill everyone in the festival. So eventually they get this idea where let's spawn Gridman first, get people out of the school, cancel the whole festival, and then if the kaiju appears, we defeat him without casualties. But that's the side part. The important part in this episode is the revelation that actually, and this is a whole scene where we get, after the guys try to get down and get resolved to fight Akane as an enemy, Rika really tries to get the diplomatic approach and try to convince them to get the diplomatic approach. So she does not want to fight Akane because she's a friend of her and all. But then we get this revelation that actually Akane is in power of anything in the world. So the single fact that Erika is her friend is something that she was born with because Akane wanted to. So there's no way that Erika actually can hate Akane because Akane did not make Erika like that. And that's the whole messed up stuff and revelations and all. I say like that, but the scene is better than me explaining again. Please watch this anime. It's really, really good. Although it's just shonen stuff, it's pretty good for what it is. And then we get to episode 9. Episode 9 is really strange because they first off, right, you see the first episode again, except exchange Erika for Akane. That's basically it. And then you see also side stories for Rika and Utsumi, all involving Akane. And this is a huge spoiler, please watch the anime. Please stop here if you don't want to get spoiled. You get to see that actually Akane designed a kaiju for some reason that actually does not have a physical form, but he has this power to just trap these 3 people, Utsumi, Rika, and Yuta, in a perpetuous dream. And all their dreams are related to liking Akane being a friend. They forget about Gridman, they forget about the kaiju. All their dreams revolve around living with Akane in a good way and all. But eventually, they get this kind of feeling that they have a mission to fulfill, and you also see that Gridman has this extra planar power to interfere in their dreams for some reason. And then you see that actually Gridman has this part where he can get this kaiju that has no material form, but actually you can see him, but he kind of just transcends through buildings and goes through you cannot hit him and all. But Gridman for some reason can just like spawn his extra planar form of himself and just materialize the kaiju. I don't know, it's just a scene, and it's really just just 2 seconds. The kaiju materializes, destroy like one building. Yuta gets up, transforms full power Gridman, and slash him to destruction. Let's go. That's basically episode 9. What's the crux here, right? All the episodes have this cycle, right? Kaiju appears and Gridman appears to fight him and all. But all the episodes have a little of a story beat towards their overarching story. What is episode 9? Episode 9 is you start to see first that Akane's mental state is really deteriorating as she begins to see that her control over her creation, that is the city, is dwindling, is contested by someone that is not her creation and is invading into her kingdom, let's say. She begins to crumble from stress, from losing control, right? And eventually you can see that she really starts to question whether or not she's good enough to make kaiju to keep control, to do what she wants. Because from what we can gather at that point, she created the city to live in it. So she created this ideal place for her, just for her, and now someone's trying to destroy the way she wants to live. But also we see this part where you can see that Alexis is kind of starting to doubt whether or not Akane is suited for the purposes he has to him. At this point you can see that actually the bad guy is Alexis and he's using Akane for some reason we don't know yet. Anyways, episode 10 is let's say the beginning of the end, the start of the end of season rush, which I mostly hate, but for this one it's pretty okay actually. It's pretty okay considering everything I ever watched this is one of the end of the season rushes that I just accept, because Gridman has 12 episodes and it's really just compact in itself, and I don't mind it. So basically they try to find Akane at her house, but when they reach her house they find out that it is this whole another pocket dimension inside her house, because whatever reason they live in a made up city, so there's nothing there, but there is something still there, and for some reason the day does not reset after another kaiju attacks. You can see that this kaiju is specific. As I said, the mental state of Akane is pretty bad at this point, and so she has no will to create a kaiju. So this one kaiju that comes out in episode 10, you can see that he looks like a plushie, kid's toy, something like that, and it does not bear the details, the craftsmanship that the kaiju we already saw at that point have, and really does not have battle tactics, does not have good powers and all. And then you see this whole thing, right? The whole ongoing with Akane's mental state. But also we see that after the day does not reset, actually what would be the corpse of the kaiju does not explode or go away. From the corpse comes out a whole new kaiju, really messed up. It really feels like let's say the Joker kaiju at that point, because he has this really erratic movement style. This really comes out of a laughter, that maniacal laughter that comes out of him. This reckless way of fighting and all. And then Gridman really gets beat up, even full power and all. But at this point we can see one of the developments of, let's say, a character. For some reason, Anti appears and transforms into his kaiju form, but actually he goes through a second transformation, and then he becomes Grid Naito, the knight of Gridman, and he kind of just, let's say, mimics Gridman's abilities to be the next Gridman, let's say. And so he, being a kaiju, understanding kaiju, he can read the movements of this erratic Joker kaiju and defeat him, and now Anti's a good guy. That's basically it. So that's episode 10. At this point, Alex is really fed up with Akane's incompetence. Akane is really just throwing everything into the air and just saying fuck it, not caring about anything anymore. And for the most part, that's where I'm going to stop the story. Episode 11 and 12 are their whole thing. It is the final battle. The one thing I did not talk about at the beginning, why I don't vibe with tokusatsu for the most part. For the most part, tokusatsu are always cheesed. I call it cheesing it, because it's always the same smooth up kind of thing, where there are no actual stakes because the good guys will always win. Nobody will actually die for the most part. Nobody of the good guys will actually die. For the most part, everyone in the, let's say, the civilians, the people who are the victims will always be saved as a whole, or 99% of them, with only one person dying the whole series because of stakes and all. For the most part, tokusatsu doesn't even have death. They mostly get banished to another realm or something like that. Some of them get transformed into kaiju themselves and then defeated and all. And the thing is, it's always the same. And for Gridman, it comes out as always the same. But the end is pretty meta and it's pretty good. But that's the thing, right? I will not talk about the last 2 episodes because I don't feel like I need it. I think the twist at the end is way better to be seen than to be explained. I cannot explain it well enough, I think. Or I believe that you will get more enjoyment watching it. What I'm doing here is just getting you kind of primed if you want to watch it. So that's mostly it. So what are my thoughts about Gridman? In general, it's a really beautiful anime. no frames were spared. All the frames are well drawn, either to be humorous, either to be beautiful, either to be aesthetic. You can see this one frame they use a lot, that is this front face of Rika, because they do this. Rika has this aesthetic thing in her that they did, that her eyes are really beautiful. That's mostly my opinion, but you can see that they really try to lean into it a lot. Rika is one of the most aesthetic characters from what I can remember, although her styling does not show off her whole. It's hard to say that, but the aesthetic is stronger than the style, let's say. She does not stand off as a character with a different design as much as a well-done design that really stands off because it's well done. I don't know if I'm making sense anymore, but the thing is, they really showed off everything they had. All their art style is really good. The design is pretty good. Music, animation, action scenes, the whole thing with the characters, really good. All the humor they punch into it, it's really, really good. The anime is pretty good. Even I that don't vibe with it, I think the plot is pretty normal stuff, pretty run of the mill for the most part. Really just whatever for the most part, really. The animation, the aesthetic, the style, the design is really nice. The whole experience of watching it, to see a good, well-made anime. It's really well made, even though it has flaws. It's really, really good, and that's what I think. It is better to be watched. Please watch it if you can. It is pretty good. That's the whole spiel. So to end it right after this whole thing, after this whole rant for about an hour now, I hope you enjoy it. If you can, please share with your friends. I'm really trying to get more people to listen, even though I'm new and mostly the production value of the podcast is not really that much. If you can share it, follow me on the platforms you are. If you are on YouTube, please subscribe, join the Discord. If you like what I do, mostly I'm just on Discord, really. And that's about it. Thank you for listening. Thank you as always for listening to this, me just talking to the microphone. Thank you for everything. See you next time. Bye.